Hello, Advanced Math. Today's mini lesson is on important expressions vocabulary. 3 big vocabulary words I need you to know. So please open to your next blank page. Mark this as your title on your math notebook. When you're all done, close it up. And you can reopen when we get to the we do's. Alright, so we have been writing expressions for questions like this. Most Americans understand Fahrenheit temperatures better than Celsius ones. So there's a trick. If you ever find out the temperature in Celsius and need to change it, multiply the Celsius temperature by 1 8/10 and then add 32. A little trick. If somebody ever tells you it's 10 degrees Celsius outside, you just multiply that by 1 8/10 and then add 32, and you'll know the Fahrenheit temperature, which most people can understand better in the United States. So let's write an expression first that shows me how to change the Celsius temperature into Fahrenheit. So here, let's read it again. If you ever find out the temperature in Celsius and need to change it, multiply the Celsius temperature by 1 8/10, then add 32. You'll notice we don't know the Celsius temperature. So that's going to be an unknown that I'll probably make BC. That's an unknown value. So I'm going to multiply the Celsius temperature by 1 8/10 and then add 32. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply, and remember there's a lot of ways I can write this. I can do it with a dot this way. Can do it with a dot this way. Can do it with parentheses. Or I can just do it with nothing and do this too. And that's okay. Actually, we would usually use a lowercase c, so let me make that lowercase. Variables unknown values tend to be lowercase c. Alright, so any of those are fine for how you multiply. I want you to get used to when you multiply an unknown value by a number. When you have a product like this, 1 8/10 times the Celsius temperature, you almost always write it this way. You'll get used to it. 1 8/10 times c. This is the most common way when there's a variable that it's written. You'll see this once in a while. You'll see this once in a while. You hardly ever see the variable come before the number. You just don't. And so I just want you to get used to. So I'm going to choose this one because this is the most common, and I just want you to get used to that. So multiply the Celsius temperature by 1 8/10 and then add 32. And there you go. So if I know the Celsius temperature, I multiply it by this, and then I add 32, and this is the most common way you're going to see this written. So we've already done that. I want to give you some vocabulary words here that I need you to know. So each of these 3 things, when you have this, when you have a multiplication, and then you have an add or subtract term, these things in this kind of an expression all have a certain name, and I want to give you those names now. Okay. So first of all, the unknown value that we represent with a letter, we call that a variable. And we call that a variable because it can vary, which means change. So this formula, for instance, to find the Fahrenheit temperature, it works no matter what this is. So this number, this unknown value can vary, can change, can be 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 11 degrees, who knows. So we call that a variable. So the unknown value, the official algebra term for an unknown value is a variable. That's the first one. The number multiplied by the variable is called the coefficient. I'll write that more carefully for you because it's a new word. Coefficient. And that is the number multiplied by the variable. When we get later into algebra, that number gets to be very important. So this is called the coefficient. We've got a variable, the unknown value, a coefficient, the number multiplied by the variable, and then this, you'll notice this does not change no matter what the temperature is. Whatever the temperature is changes this part of the expression. But this part always stays the same. It's always going to be, you're always going to add 32 no matter what the temperature is. So this part with no variable is called a constant. And that is a number added to the variable and coefficient. Okay, so 3 words: constant, coefficient, and variable. And that's it. Those are the big 3 words that I need you to know from this. So we're going to get used to using those. But for now, variable, the number you multiply the variable by is called a coefficient. And then the number that you add to this afterward is called a constant. It's a constant value that gets added. Constant means doesn't change. Doesn't change. Okay? So let's do another one, and then you can write these definitions and these examples in your notes. So open your notebook, and let's write these down. So my mechanic charges $99 to investigate my car for a problem, plus $50 per hour that he takes to find and fix it. That's how it works. So if I drop my car off and say, hey, something's wrong, I need you to figure out what it is, just to start the process, he's going to charge me $99 plus $50. I'm going to get rid of the dollar sign just so it doesn't get confusing. So he's going to charge me $99 to look at it plus $50 times how many ever hours he looks at it, which I don't know how long that is in this one. So this kind of per hour that it takes, I don't know how many hours it's going to take in this situation. Could take 1, could take 5, could take 10 for all I know. So I'm just going to multiply 50 by h. So again, you could write 50 times h. You could write h times 50. You could write 50 times h. You could write h times 50. You could write 50 times h. You don't ever see this one. I don't know why. Some things in math are just sort of like this is the way everybody does it. You never see h times 50 like this with no sign. I don't know why not, but you never see that. So most of the time when you have a variable, you're going to see this one be the one chosen. So I'm going to start getting used to that for you. So this means $99 plus 50 times the number of hours. So this is the expression that tells me how much he's going to charge to figure out what's wrong with my car. All right? So the words I want you to know out of this expression, the whole thing's called an expression. That's a biggie. If you don't know that, if you're not comfortable with that word yet, please do. The whole thing is an expression. Maybe if I do this. Expression. And each of these have a name. So first, this is called a variable. And that comes from vary, the word vary, which means change. So the number of hours can change in this problem. Could be 1, could be 3, depends on the severity of the problem. So the unknown value is called the variable. The number I multiply the variable by, that is called a coefficient. And that is the number multiplied by the variable. Okay? Number most is ugly. Multiplied by the variable. That's called a coefficient. And then this other number, this is the opposite of a variable. It doesn't change. No matter what happens, he's charging me $99. If I drop it off and he says, oh, look, I can see immediately what's wrong with it, it's still $99. That's called a constant. Let's put quotes here. Get that word. This is called a constant. means doesn't change. And that is the number added to the variable and coefficient. So not every expression has a constant, but a lot of them do. You're going to see expressions of this sort a lot. They're very, very common, and so I just want you to kind of get used to some of the terms. Constant, coefficient, and variable. So once you go back, if you need to go back through this one and the other one and get used to those words, that is fine. Once you've got this written down in your notebook, you are all set, and we'll do a little practice with it tomorrow. See you then.